Museums are much more welcoming places than they were 20 years ago for young children, 4- and 5-year-olds.
We are so lucky to live in a time where we have so many different museums and centers for students to go visit, and even our youngest visitors are welcome in these places. We have art galleries, science centers, nature centers, history museums, and even children's museums as well. But all of these museums can offer a rich context for children to learn outside of the classroom. There are museum educators that you can contact ahead of time that will give you all kinds of resources that are early childhood friendly in the museum. When you enter the front doors, there is usually an information desk with visitor services representatives that can assist you with how to get around the museum and answer any questions that you may have. When you're planning a visit to the museum, it's important to connect what you're doing in the classroom to your museum visit. So when you're in the classroom, before you come to the museum, you can do a pre-visit lesson with your students.
After an idea has been introduced to young children about whatever different subjects you're talking about, to come to a museum and to see some really amazing objects. Objects give children an opportunity to have tactile experiences, to have all different kinds of sensory experiences, visual, auditory, sensory, and that they can use those opportunities then to have new, rich vocabulary development.
It's a really good idea to plan ahead before coming to a museum. It'll make the experience for you and for your students very successful.
What's a really great thing to do with young children is to really think ahead of time about what kinds of objects you're going to go see in the museum, and then think about ways that the children can be mindful as well as really engaged. It might be questions that help the children to really think about that object that's in front of them. What is it used for? How is it made? What color is it? What size is it? And get the children to be describing it. And then they can also think about how does it work. Maybe that will get them to think about movement activities.
Propeller. If you're able to visit the museum in advance, that's even better. You can look around the museum, get a sense of the layout, and look for signs that can direct you and your students to different places, such as the bathroom or designated spaces for snacks. You can go to the visitor services desk and check out a map so that you can get a sense of the museum ahead of time.
Many museums now have story time programs that are available for 4- and 5-year-olds. These programs are where a museum educator has carefully selected a children's book that will relate to the children's experience in the museum.
The brothers built their own toy flying machines and dreamed of making a machine big enough to fly themselves.
And they're often held right in the gallery so that the children can have an experience with the objects in the museum and also have a great experience reading a story.
During your museum visit, you may have an opportunity to stop by a gift shop and find some postcards, or even bring your own digital camera and take pictures in the museum, bring them back to the classroom, and do some post-museum visit lessons using those images. After you visit the museum, it's really important to connect what you learned in the museum back to the classroom. That's where the real learning happens for students. So this is a great time to reflect on the things that you saw in the museum. You can reflect on the objects you saw by finding real-world objects that students can see back in the classroom and comparing and contrasting those objects, maybe even making a model or doing some other artwork that can really engage the students in what they learned. And it gives them a chance to ask questions that they may not have been able to ask at the museum.